Hey guys, welcome back. BDCKR here, and we're back with our weekly recap of all things injustice. This is the week of December 26, 2024. Happy Boxing Day to everybody who celebrates. The current challenge is Raven Prime. And Prime is not actually part of her official name. It's just the name we like to use because there are multiple skins and she's the one that doesn't have a specific universe. It is a 1 week repeat of her challenge. The required characters are Wonder Woman, Nightwing, Flash, who are available as cheaply as Silver, Bronze, and Bronze in the store. Her passive is Demonic Rage. Twice per match, when Raven is below 20% health, she swaps health with her opponent. Bosses are protected. That wasn't the case when she was originally released. Bosses were not protected. But clearly they decided it was important to change that. So she's got 1050 attack. She's got 1000 health. She was last available December 14th, 2023, but she was last reviewed November 12th, 2024 in Season 12, Episode 19 of our Q&A. And she's got lowish stats, but despite that, she is still a great card. She was one of the first characters, challenge or otherwise, who had a passive that had an impact on fight strategy and was literally game-changing. That phrase gets used a lot, bit of a cliche. In her case, it was true. Despite not having great stats, her health swap passive is super useful still. She really shines in Survivor, and you can see her in the video we did many years ago when we beat the full Survivor at the time, and I'll link that in the description. So swapping health makes a huge difference when your opponent's health pool is much bigger than yours. And the key to taking advantage of her passive is making sure her health lands at some point between 0 and 20% in order to trigger it. And on the flip side, if you're fighting against her, the best way to manage her passive and ensure that it doesn't trigger is just to take her from anywhere that's 20% health or higher, and one hit, take her down to less than 0. If your team is good enough and you're fighting Raven, you can just trigger her passive twice. The first health swap, that one hurts a bit more as she takes your health. But if you use the same character to bring your health down again, and that's a key where, your team's got to have a decent amount of offensive output. Either the second health swap doesn't happen, or it happens with both of you having such little health that it really has no practical impact on the fight. So just a few interesting things about her. She was one of the characters that didn't have a breakthrough for ages. There's maybe a couple years, where she just wasn't in the rotation, that the weekend golds that show up did not include Raven. Having the option to bring her up to level 60 Elite 10 makes up for any perceived deficiency in stats. She was one of the earliest gold cards to have multiple hits on Combo Ender to take advantage of Combo Ender abilities on gears. And, all that being said, I think she is a little bit harder to use outside of Survivor when your roster and your options of other characters gets better. The best part of her is her health swap passive, at least to most people it is. The best scenario is for her to take a lot of health from her opponent when it triggers. If the opponent's health is already low, it's not much of an advantage. If you're using the rest of your team, or even Raven herself, but not her health swap for your main damage output, by the time Raven's passive triggers, you're not getting much of as big an advantage as you would otherwise. And if you're trying to use her health swap to take down the other team, then you have to sort of factor in the time it takes to let her health drop. And a lot of times that's not worth it when you're facing a team that's about the same strength as yours, or even a little bit higher, or a little bit better. The reason why it's so much better in Survivor is that the later fight opponents have a huge health pool. The swap is in percentages, so you can reduce the opponent to less than 20% health really quickly while you pick up to 100%. And when you look at the footage that's on your screen right now, we're not trying to use her passive, and I think the fights are better for it in multiplayer. Her special 2, which often gets overlooked in general, like when we talk about characters, we like to talk about their special 2. Her special 2 does a decent amount of damage. It's no different than other characters where we don't try to play to their passive, but her special 2 is good enough to make up for it, right? Her special 2 is multi-hit. It looks like there's 4 hits, each doing about a quarter of the damage. It can knock out more than one opponent, and it's ranged enough that if you're using Master's Death card like we are in this loadout, you don't need to wait before starting your special 2. You can use it as soon as it tags in, as soon as you tag in, and who cares how far Master's Death Cart shoves the opponent? You're still hitting them. If you play her straight up as your Special 2 specialist, instead of trying to play to her passive, sometimes you'll still get the benefit of her passive with some tougher opponents. But the fights in general are so much faster if you use her to just mash the opponent. And this is now week 35 since the end of the 4 years that we had of a repeating challenge cycle. We are still in relatively uncharted territory. There are still 12 more missing challenge characters that have not been around for years. Based on what's happened since Gaslight Batman came back after an absence of years, we started off with a schedule that alternated between the old 4-year cycle and the returning Lost Challenge characters, and then it stopped a few months ago. And we've had just the repeating old challenge characters. If they go back to repeating them again, the sort of drop dead date, the last date that they're going to have to reintroduce old characters and still be able to alternate with the previous challenge cycle is going to be February 13th of 2025. So that's a date to look forward to see if something's going to happen. Let's see. So this week's multiplayer reward is Sengoku helmet, which becomes Batman Ninja helmet. When maxed out, it gives 40% max health increase. For every 5% of available power, damage received is reduced by 2.3%. And for Batman only, for every 10% of available power, crit chance is increased by 3%. And when fully evolved, there's a 50% chance to resist power drain. It was last available May 23rd, 2024. Unlike the challenge cycle, nothing is missing from multiplayer rewards. And if the pattern holds, as we expect it to, next week should be Astro Harness. So this gear is a good tank defensive gear. Generally, we don't lean on defensive gears very much, but we had it originally as part of our version, one of our versions of the Justice League team that had New 52 Superman, with New 52 Wonder Woman giving him power. His passive is enough to make him a good offensive force, so the gear slots can be used to make him almost invulnerable. And that's what this gear can do. The main problem for me with this gear, which is why we're no longer using it as part of our Justice League loadout, is that to get the best benefit out of two of the abilities, right? Reduce damage taken, crit chance increase for Batman, you can't use your power. And giving up on using your power is hard. That's where a huge amount of damage output comes. The good thing is, though, that the abilities on this gear, they're in line with each other. And the last evolved ability protects the power that you're hoarding in order to maintain the benefits of this gear. One of the better uses, non-Batman uses, would be Red Lantern Hal Jordan, where he almost always has 3 bars of power to give you reduced damage and increased crit chance, except right after doing a special when you need to wait for him to power back up. But it means you also still get the benefit of using his power, which we know it takes away his health. But if you're going to be using any power at all anyways, this is a nice way to take advantage of that and make him just a little bit stronger. Facing an opponent with this gear is another reason to have somebody who can shatter gears with either by their ability or with Claw of Horus. And if you're facing Batman Ninja Batman with his helmet, he can sometimes take very low or 0 damage unless you shatter his gears. So if you get really unlucky and you're not prepared for him, the fight can almost be impossible. So you want to at least, in order to be prepared, you need to have the ability to either shatter gears or inflict damage over time, a decent amount of damage over time to take his health down. And if you're not, it's the fights against him with this helmet can sometimes be really awful if you're not equipped to try at least one of those strategies. All right, in the store, Earth 2 Solomon Grundy pack, $24.99. That's Canadian, only currency that matters. It is a confirmatory clue to next week's challenge, which is consistent with the pattern that we've had, that we expect from the old challenge cycle, as long as they don't reintroduce some of the missing challenge characters. And at this point, I don't think they will. It does not come with credits, so it's an especially overpriced pack. It does not unlock him in your store, so you're better off waiting until next week when he's very likely to be the challenge character. The other new pack this week is the Gotham Gold pack for $24.99. You get Bane, a gold character, Deathstroke, a silver character, and Insurgency the Joker, another gold character. It is an awful, awful pack. All the characters are available in the store. Power credits, $24.99, not a good way to spend your money. You're better off buying power recharges so you can just play the game more, generate power credits, and spend the power credits to get these characters. Character Bundle Flash TV, it's the second week. We talked about it last week already. And everything else has been around for a few years, so nothing else new. Phantom Zone has one more week left. Fight 62 is still broken. And starting from Christmas yesterday, we're at the beginning of a 7-day stretch of double XP, which is probably to celebrate that stretch that, I guess, in North America, at least in Canada, is almost always a school holiday stretching out to New Year's. So a celebration of Christmas through to New Year's. Last weekend's breakthrough for gold was Zod, Aquaman, and Shazam. Coming weekend is probably going to be Catwoman, Deathstroke, and Raven, according to the schedule. There's a link in the description to a thread in the Injustice Mobile subreddit from Devlin16 that goes over the complete breakthrough cycle. And as far as the current glitches go, we will go into more detail every time something significant changes, which did not happen this week. Even if nothing changes, we still do a more detailed review once a month, the first week of every month. Most recently, that was our recap from December the 5th. And you could go to that video, or you could watch a video tutorial for every working glitch in our playlist, Current Working Glitches, linked in the description of this video. The main thing worth mentioning this week is that the challenge reset has been confirmed to be working on this week's Raven challenge. And that's it. Oh, maybe it's worth mentioning though that at least as far as the challenge reset goes, two most common problems: the cloud doesn't appear. That means you're disconnecting from the internet too early. And if the cloud appears but your progress is still there, then you're disconnecting too late. So you got to find that sweet spot where you're at just the right time, not too early, not too late, the Goldilocks slot. Okay. So this is where we like to give a extra big thank you to our patrons on Patreon. That's Michael Devries, Irvin Ruiz, Hoshi127, and Nora Klimek, who are supporting us on the credit level. And thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Komoda.